In Italian writer and scholar Umberto Eco's famous essay Fascism, he lays out 14 tenets to recognize fascism in its early burgeoning form. This video will be focusing on the 13th of these 14 tenets. Fascism is based upon a selective populism, a qualitative populism one might say. In a democracy, the citizens have individual rights, but the citizens in their entirety have a political impact only from a quantitative point of view. One follows the decisions of the majority. For fascism, however, individuals as individuals have no rights, and the people is conceived as a quality, a monolithic entity expressing the common will. The best way to describe this in simple layman's terms is, the people are everything, but the person is nothing. This is why life is so cheap to fascists, even when it comes to the lives of the fascists themselves, because they don't see individual members of society as individuals. They see society as a whole, and members of the society as mere parts of that whole. An apt analogy is that they view society as an organism, and people are just like cells, like skin cells or blood cells. Your body produces new cells all the time, so who gives a shit about cells dying? You want an example of this concept? The Turner Diaries is a piece of neo-Nazi white supremacist race war fan fiction. It's a despicable book, but it is useful for gaining insight into the fascists' fucked up mindset. For a wider context, I recommend checking out Thought Slime's video, I Read the Most Hateful Book Ever Written. To summarize, the Turner Diaries is told from the perspective of the titular Turner. These are his diaries, you see. The story ends with Turner carrying out a 9/11-style suicide bombing of the Pentagon, thus triggering a nuclear war that wipes out most of the world's population, including the vast majority of white people. This is perfectly acceptable, the third-person narrator of the book's epilogue would have us believe, because what really matters is that all the non-white races were wiped out completely, and the small minority of the white population that remains in this post-apocalypse is able to be fruitful and multiply and repopulate what's left of the Earth with an entirely homogeneous white population.
May I remind you that this is their fantasy. This is the best case scenario they write to make themselves look like heroes. And even in their wildest dreams, they can't imagine a world where they don't have to kill millions of innocent people, where they don't eradicate the majority of the world's population, where people can live together in peace without being scared for their lives of the strong men breathing down their necks, ready to execute them on the spot if they step out of line even for a second.
This is also why the reverse Malthusian population replenishment theory seems perfectly reasonable to them. They have no problem sending men and boys off to die in war, because with a few squirts of cum, the numbers can be easily replenished, so their lives never mattered to begin with. It doesn't matter how many individual people have to suffer and die, because selective populism isn't about actual people. It's about the intangible idea of the people. It's also why responding to their bigotry against queer and trans folks by pointing out that LGBTQ people aren't harming anyone by simply existing doesn't hold any weight for them. That's not an idea they can comprehend, because remember, they view society as an organism, and members of society as the cells that make up that organism. That doesn't lend itself to a live and let live mentality, but rather a bad apples spoil the bunch mentality. That's why they use language like degeneracy and social contagion when referring to us. This is why liberal centrists are playing a fool's game by trying to appeal to fascist humanity through dialogue, because they have no humanity to appeal to. If they had any to begin with, it's a part of themselves they actively reject as a form of weakness.
Valuing life is not weakness, and disregarding it is not strength.